Alright, so this video is going to be pretty deep, but it's about my experience of what it was like growing up in New Zealand and what the sad reality of growing up in New Zealand is really like when you have big goals and big ambitions. Growing up, I was always a very ambitious kid, I wanted to become a YouTuber, I wanted to do big things in my life, had big dreams. But little did I realize is this actually all came with a big cost, and I realized that not everyone wants the best for you, and when you step into reality, people are a lot more negative than you'd expect. So there was a time in high school, I had just started high school during this time. And, I had a YouTube channel going. And I was kind of embarrassed about the YouTube channel. I didn't want people to find out about it. But people did still find out about it in the end. And every time I told people I want to become a YouTuber someday, I want to get a YouTube partnership, I want to do this full time, they'd make fun of me, they'd put me down, they'd be like, bro, you're such a loser, it's not going to ever happen, who's going to want to watch you, you got nothing going for you, you're this, you're that. And these words actually really hurt me, and I thought about giving up my YouTube channel multiple times, but I never did, which I'm really grateful for. And the sad part about living in New Zealand is tall poppy syndrome here is so big. People want you to do well, but never better than them. And that's the hard reality I unfortunately had to face growing up in New Zealand. There's a problem in New Zealand where no one wants you to do as good as them. And if you try to be different, you're just considered cringe or weird. And this really used to affect me growing up. It was hard to get by because every time I try to do something, I just think it's very cringe and not do it because of the way people would label me as, like people would be like, oh, you're so cringe for making YouTube videos, or wow, look at you, you're such a loser. And not even YouTube. I remember when I first started going to the gym as well. I was a skinny, scrawny teenager, had little to no muscle. And there was a time where I just got sick and tired of being picked on and bullied. Keep in mind, when I was in high school, I was like a 5'5" kid that was only like 50 kilos. So I was very, very small. And yeah, so I got into the gym and I just wanted to prove everyone wrong. So I started recording my content of myself in the gym, lifting weights, just trying to prove everyone wrong. And I thought I was actually going to get a lot of support for this, and I felt like I was going to get a lot of girls and this and that. But I soon realized that things actually got worse instead of better. People just thought I was like being too up myself, or being too much, or showing off. I'd go into school and people would be like, oh, did you look at the big guy, you think you're cool now just because you got a bit of muscle now. I feel like no matter what I would do, I would always get put down. And there was a stage in my life in high school where I was just really, really sad because there would be times where I'd literally go to school like hiding my body, and there were times where I would just like put all my YouTube videos in private so no one would see it. And it made me feel like I was never enough. It just made me feel like I was a very cringe and very undeserving person. Because keep in mind, at the time when I was in high school, this would have been around 2015, 2014, content creation was not big at all, especially in New Zealand. There were no content creators in New Zealand at the time. So I was like one of the very few people that were actually getting into it, that was actually getting into the content creating space. So it was something new. And a lot of people were not used to it. So because it was so different, people just thought I was that weirdo, or I was just some try-hard or a wannabe YouTuber because I was putting myself out there. It's funny now because I'm glad I didn't let the head get to me, because now I've actually built the physique of my dreams, and these people that used to be hating on me are now in my DMs asking for help. And I've also achieved a YouTube partnership now as well. And not to brag, I'm not trying to sound like I'm the main character, or that I went through a lot of hardship to get to where I am. But it's just I'm just talking about the sad part about New Zealand that a lot of people don't know about. There's a reason why a lot of people in New Zealand do not become successful and don't reach their full potential, and that is tall poppy syndrome. And people just never want you to do better than them. And it's sad because when I was doing my YouTube channel and when I was on my fitness journey, I was doing all of this because I just loved doing it, and I got a lot of inspiration from it. So that's the reason why I kept doing it. Yeah, I had a lot of tough moments growing up, a lot of tough moments. Growing up in New Zealand, standing out too much actually does more harm than good. I don't know what it's like in other places of the world. I assume it's sort of the same, But when you're in other places in the world, when you put yourself out there, no one really cares. People just go on with their day. But for some reason in New Zealand, when you put yourself out there, and I think this is the main reason for this is because in Kiwi culture, being humble is something that's very big. It's all about being humble, being humble, being humble. It's like you can be a superstar, but don't brag about it. Like whatever you do, don't brag about it. Okay, and that's the issue. So that's the issue I had to face with growing up in New Zealand. And so yeah, because of this, I went through a stage where I felt very depressed and very down because I felt like there was no one else that I could relate to that knew what I was going through at the time. Because when I was in high school, I was probably the only person in the whole school that was actually making videos on YouTube. I was probably the only person in school that was actually taking the gym very seriously. So it was something very new to everyone, and I was very lonely growing up. It was very stressful because I felt like I was an outcast. I felt like I wasn't welcome. I just felt like what I was doing was wrong, and then it was very cringeworthy, and it was very tough. It was very tough. Yeah, it was hard growing up in high school, and just growing up in New Zealand in general. Like I've lost a lot of close friendships as well. A lot of my best friends have like pretty much ghosted me. Now I don't want to play this whole victim mentality, like oh, like I went through this, I went through that, and I got put down and this and that. I don't want to go through that victim mentality. But I'm just showing you guys like the real picture of the side of New Zealand that no one talks about, because you see the beauty, you see this, you see that, you see all these good things, but then when you dig deeper, you don't see the actual problems that this country has, and that is that you know it's very hard to be successful. It's very hard to put yourself out there. It's very hard to be good at whatever you want to do, because growing up, especially, there will always be people that will try to put you down for this. There will always be someone that's very jealous of you. It's just it's tough. It's very tough.